Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 279 of the Strength Coach Podcast, the official podcast of Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com, the world's best source for strength and conditioning information. Brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. I'm your host, Anthony Renna, and the show notes are located at my site, ContinueFit.com. It's also where you can find out more about my book, Be Like the Best, and the Be Like the Best workbook. The book consists of 50 interviews with top fitness pros, and after each interview is a Be Like, which is just an action step or a challenge that'll help you be like the best. The best place to buy that book is at On Target Publications. They don't have the shipping delay that Amazon has right now. All right, today on the Coach's Corner, I spoke to Coach Boyle about two forum threads. One was called 4-Day Program Structure. That was a little selfish because I'm doing a 4-day with a couple of hockey players. I wanted to ask him about. Somebody had already done that on the forum, so I expanded on that. Also, we talked about the relationship between low back and hips with rotation, so went over a few exercises for that. For the Results Fitness University Business of Fitness segment, I'm on with Alwyn Cosgrove to talk about charging clients different prices for training with different levels of experience. So, for example, if a new trainer comes in and they don't have the experience that you have, should you have different levels? So basically, that was actually from a thread about new trainers and payroll. For the TrainHeroic data-driven coaching segment, Adam Doughty is on with Tim Robinson to discuss providing value remotely and customer service clues. A reminder, we also did a webinar with Adam and TrainHeroic founder Ben Crookston. We posted on traincoach.com. It's free. Anybody can go check it out. We just talked about going from retail to remote and just some best practices with TrainHeroic. Don't forget, they have a 14-day free trial. If you love it, once you decide to stay, let them know I sent you. You'll save 10% off the first year of the TrainHeroic Pro or Elite editions. All right, for the Functional Movement System segment, Greg Cook is on to continue his 6-part series. Today, he discusses awareness. For the BodyByBoyleOnline.com, hit the gym with the Strength Coach segment, I have on Brianna Diorio, who is a certified holistic lifestyle coach, as well as a clinical nutritionist. She's also the host of the new podcast, All That Bull. We spoke about how the coronavirus is kind of affecting all of us. And really what we did was we went deeper into 3 areas, and that is stress, sleep, and the immune system. So for each area, we went deeper. We spoke about what we can do from a diet and supplementation perspective to maybe help us out in all 3 of those areas. All right, lots of things to get to, so let's get on the phone with Coach Boyle. All right, now it's time for the StrengthCoach.com Coach's Corner with Coach Boyle, StrengthCoach.com. The world's best source for strength and conditioning information. Also now a resource for the COVID-19 crisis and the shutdown. We have a special resource page. We set up a place to view a bunch of the home workouts that people have been contributing, as well as a separate COVID-19 forum discussing topics like online training, handling memberships, and just really how to navigate through this whole thing. So we also extended the trial, and that's probably going to last for at least maybe another 2 weeks, so you can try it out. Normally it's 3 days for $1. Right now we're doing 30 days for $1. You'll have access to all the articles, videos, and programs, as well as the best forum on the net. It's the only place to have full access to Coach Boyle. He's on every day. Coach, how you doing?
Ant, I am doing pretty good considering the circumstances. How about you?
Doing great, hanging in there. I feel I'm actually busier right now. I've been doing a lot more, but I just need to see some people, or go to the coffee bar and just hang out or a bar and have a drink in a bar or something. It's killing me. But
no,
could be
I
worse.
know that exactly. I mean, that's the difficult part. I see people every day at either Home Depot or Lowe's. That's my non-family interaction. So.
Yeah, no, it's funny because we have a ShopRite and a Target, pretty much. Not in my building, but almost in my building. And sometimes I just want to go down to Target because they have the supermarket, but they also have, the electronics area, so you can kind of browse around
Well,
in there.
it's Walmart here just closed the non-essential aisles because people were doing that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They only have the food aisles open
Wow. Jeez.
because of guys like you.
Yeah, see? I didn't
Oh,
say I
see,
did it. I said I wanted to do it. So, um, Coach, let's talk about this is an interesting question because I'm actually going to bring up my stuff. The 4-day program structure help. Somebody was asking about, how do you program the 4 days? And you had actually said, right now, we kind of you're going to the 3-day programs with conditioning in days 2, 4, and 6. Why are you doing that right now? Let me ask your lens and I'll tell you what I'm doing.
all right. My lens gives people something to do every day. When we went, our idea with the 4-day program is sort of the opposite. We want to have weekends off. We want, especially, we kind of designed it with our pro athletes in mind initially years ago. And it was the idea that, hey, Thursday we go 4 days in a row. Thursday at 11 o'clock, you're done. You don't have to be back till Monday. And it was really successful. It was very successful business-wise at MBSC. People liked it. It worked for families. Now you're in quarantine and you want something to do every day. So we kind of went the opposite route because the truth is, I think I'd rather, and Alan Cosgrove and I talked about this a long time ago, I think I'd rather do 3 total body lifts a week in a perfect world than the 4-day that we do. But the 4-day it's, it always goes back. What's the word all the time? Logistics, right? It's all logistics. So
Absolutely.
Tell me what you're thinking.
Well, no, my lens is a little different with the hockey guys that I have right now. And my thing, and I told them this, I said, guys, listen, they need to gain some size. They're 16. It's a 16-year-old group, and they need to gain size. And right now is the best opportunity for them. They're never, ever, ever going to have this opportunity where there's really limited school. They're doing some homeschooling or whatever, online. And then they don't have hockey. So normally they're burning so many calories because these are kids, they're prep school kids. They go to Kent and they're basically normally on the ice. Like even in the summer, they're doing conditioning on the ice and doing skills, even if they're not going to, doing a practice, but they need to get bigger. So I'm doing Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday with them. So lower body, Monday, Thursday, upper body, Tuesday, Friday. And so it's warm up, jump, throw, sprint. And I only do the sprint on Monday and on the leg days because I don't want them sprinting the day after. I'm killing them with the legs. So we've been killing them. We've been doing a boatload of volume. So they need that Wednesday off and they need that Saturday off really for what we've been doing. We're not doing finishers. I don't want them to worry about the conditioning right now just because we have so much time. We can get back to that. We want to gain some size. One of the kids gained 6 pounds in a month basically because his dad's also feeding him roughly, he did it last week, 3,500 to 4,500 calories a day, all whole foods, shakes, everything. So that's really what my lens was for these guys, and I just wanted to get your take on it.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I think, in some ways, I'm in a similar situation with Mark, but I like to keep going all year round. I just feel like, especially at times like this, kids get out of shape. Normally, when they're playing, when they're doing all this stuff, I'm more concerned with them not, okay, we got to be careful about how much conditioning we do just because we're getting so much volume in of practice type stuff. But, it ends up kind of a little bit different situation in terms of now there's no conditioning, there's no practice, there's nothing. And so it's, we're trying to do something. And with Mark, actually, I've been playing around with almost like not as much a 6-day, but a 3-day rotation of we'll lift one day, we'll run another day, like do speed plyos and some conditioning, and then we'll shoot the 3rd day. And then we'll just go back and do it again. So now sometimes we are only getting 2 lifts in and 2 total bodies a week still. So I guess there's a lot of ways to skin the cat. My thing is trying to keep people busy.
Yeah. Well, they're shooting They're shooting on Wednesday and Saturday. They got their coach has a indoor rink at this house, so they're going there as well. So they're getting, and they do some conditioning, but like my timing was literally we started that week. Their season ended. Right. So they were coming. So I didn't feel like, oh my God, I got to keep them conditioned. We were just looking to gain some size. So I don't really need to worry about that right now. They're playing that little thing, kind of like what you have at MBSC, your partner there with the shooting ice. And they do a little bit of, a little bit of skating. They're pretty gassed when they're done with it, but they actually were doing it 4 days a week, but I'm killing them. So they went to 2 days, which I was kind of happy about because they're concerned. They want to do this, and they know that this is their opportunity. Plus, they're getting so much sleep, right? And they're able to get the sleep. They're able to get the rest. I talked to them a lot about that. So I do normally like that, what you're talking about as well. But just for this program right now, I just felt like I need to make sure I just wanted to get them, worry about the size, worry about them getting some good recovery.
Yeah. Like I said, I think there's lots of ways to look at it.
Absolutely. Coach, there was a thread on the relationship between low back and hips, and I thought it was pretty interesting about, they were talking about, he had read your book, Functional Training for Sports, and he found the core segment interesting about rotation and wondered how he wanted some exercises that would allow for maximal hip rotation without putting a strain on the lumbar spine. And you had posted a video of Nicole Delegat, is that how you pronounce her last name?
Delegat, yeah.
Yeah. Doing a half kneeling side med ball throw, and then Elspeth kind of countered that she felt like there was a lot of rotation through lumbar spine. I didn't feel like I saw that anyway, especially with Nicole. She did that perfect, and I think there's plenty of internal rotation at that hip, but she was getting it from the upper body. But you felt like you kind of relooked at it a little bit because it was a good discussion, and you don't really normally love the half kneel either normally, but it feels like it teaches them to use their hips as they lose the knee joint. Talk to us about this idea.
Yeah, it's funny because the guy had specifically asked for a med ball exercise that he felt would help with hip internal rotation. And I thought, okay, if you're looking for a med ball exercise that will help with hip internal rotation, like a med ball throw, this would be the way to do it, because I feel like, and I probably should go back and write a little bit more, people, like if we do standing side stuff, and people don't have good hip rotation, they move their feet. Do you know what I mean? Like as I reach back, like I kind of slide my feet in one direction. So I'm not really rotating. I need to fix my feet hard to the ground.
Yes.
But to create the rotation that I want. So I feel like when we get that person in the half kneel, it forces them into that hip a little bit more. And, as I said, I don't like it because most of our clients, unless, and I guess that's where I get into it. I should have said, well, okay, why are you looking for this? Like this, that was where I think I screwed up in terms of I didn't look at that piece of it and say, wait a second, what's this guy really trying to get at? Sometimes when you scratch away the surface, you find out that what they're asking for isn't what they need. And so Elspeth's probably my favorite forum person anyway, because she's super smart and super analytical and not afraid to disagree.
Yeah.
And so I think that makes for it just makes for great forum interaction, because I think sometimes, and other people have said it, some people just get on there and kind of parrot Mike Boyle, and that's not really what we want. What we want is more people like Elspeth who at least say, "Oh, that's not how I do it." She'll go on. I can guarantee every time we have a deadlift thing, I'll say we only trap bar deadlift, and she'll immediately get on and post about, no, we straight bar deadlift and we think it's really good. And she is very willing to challenge and question, which is, I think, what really makes the forum good are those types of people.
Absolutely. Well, I have to agree with you. I think someone had said they would rather, so Nicole was showing it, so the forward leg in the half kneel, so this was her left leg, she was going back into, back, her backswing was to the right side, and then she followed through with the left. And the left leg was forward, and somebody had said I would switch legs, and I wouldn't do that for the exact same reason you said, was what you're now doing is artificially opening up the hip. And that's really not going to do anything. One of the number one things that golfers have, older golfers, is they don't follow through. They don't have that internal left hip rotation. So when they follow through, they open up. And that's actually normally what they do is they actually move the foot to the left a little bit. So they open it. So instead of being at 12 o'clock, it's at, let's say, 11 o'clock. So you're opening up you're allowing for that hip to be able to rotate a little bit more. What I normally do is instead of half kneeling, I do 1 foot. So that left foot is forward, all the weight's on that front foot, take a nice backswing and follow through so that, like you had said, that left leg is down, locked in, and I'm almost forcing that rotation, which is, to me, why I think we're doing the drill. Also, I never have them catch the ball because I feel like when they're worried about catching the ball, they don't fully follow through. So I just usually put a backstop, or back when I was doing one-on-one, I was there catching it. But I said, follow through and look at the ball as if you were like watching your golf ball go. So I agree with you on that part. I don't love the half kneeling for that reason. And I think, you really want to lock that foot down and almost force it through.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I don't tend to use that very much anymore. We kind of eliminated it from our adult progressions for that reason. But I feel like if someone, and that's where I guess if someone had said, I want something that's going like okay, I've got a really stiff hip. I need to get this person to drive some internal rotation of that hip, kind of in a little more aggressive manner. That's probably what I would do. But with that said, it's not something that I do very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Coach, we're going to let you go. We know you have a staff meeting at MBSC, so you probably have to move from the living room over to the kitchen now. So we got to give you some time.
Yeah, I'm laying in my bed right now. That's my new podcasting and staff meeting office, so I can stay quieter and let Mark sleep and let Cindy read the paper.
Well, there's one of the Zoom calls. Somebody took a picture to I think it was Scott Livingston did the hockey one, and everybody's looking at the camera, and there you are, like leaning back with your hands behind your head, like he caught you right at that time.
That's the couch office. That's how they're really good. But that's a little louder, so that's Mark's bedroom is upstairs, and if I sit down there, he came down and complained about that. He's like, "Oh, I had to listen to you for an hour, talk to your friends."
Unbelievable.
Now I go sneak off my bedroom.
There you go, Coach. Thanks for doing this, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thanks, Ant.
All right, right now at Perform Better, they got free shipping on orders over $49. Restrictions do apply, so you can check that out. They got some sale items too, so you can double dip on that. Don't forget, you can create customized packages to help fit your online training. So you have a couple options. You can come up with an equipment package if you call them. So special equipment package for your clients to buy, and you can get it for them and have it drop shipped there, or you can just have them buy. You can have a link. So call Perform Better. They'll help you with that. They'll set that up. Check it out at performbetter.com for all their products and info on their educational seminars.
Hey, this is Adam.
This is Tim.
Welcome to the TrainHeroic Data-Driven Coaching segment, Social Distancing Edition.
Yeah, Adam and I are about 25 miles apart from one another right now, so kind of cool.
Yeah, we're doing this by Zoom, which is a little awkward, but we'll get it done.
Yeah, you got it.
Just like a lot of coaches out there, we've had to pivot our operations.
Yeah.
And, with coaching, the challenge is, trying to reproduce that value you were delivering in person, if that's where you were originally. And then also, I kind of wonder if in some ways, the role or what's important kind of changes in times like this.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. To me, I don't think the role of the coach has changed a whole lot. Something we constantly tell coaches is, how are you going to deliver the same experience that your athletes had when they walk into that brick and mortar now that we're remote or in a virtual world, right? So how do we kind of take that experience and transfer it over to a remote setting? But I think all the coaching roles still apply, motivation, coaching, all those things. You're just using different tactics to get there, Adam.
Yeah. And so, I think that the relative weight of things has to shift because you really can't produce the same experience remote as you can in person.
That's a good point.
It really just isn't the same thing. But that makes me think of something that's called customer service clues. And this is kind of like nerd speak for, the way that customers perceive a business, more or less.
Okay. Interesting.
And those fall into a few bins. They're called functional, mechanic, and humanic. And very briefly, like functional clues are just like the quality of what you do. So like how good your coaching is, maybe whether you do what you say you're going to do, that kind of thing. It's like just like the factual, like did they carry out their business in a good way? Cool. And mechanic clues are things that are about the environment more. So it's kind of like what they see when they walk into your gym. So it's kind of like the place you do your business is a large part of that. In that sense, like TrainHeroic, the platform that you use to do remote training or something similar could be the environment in that sense.
Yeah.
And then there's humanic clues, which I think is the thing to focus on, because humanic clues is essentially all the little interactions, the little kind of things little signals you send to people. Like somebody walks through the door, and if you've got passable, social skills,
being a human,
you might smile at them, and that's a clue, and it's worth something.
Yeah, totally.
Humanic clues is not only are they part of like human interaction, just fundamentally, is that they can make customers perceive the quality of your services as being much higher than they actually might be.
Yeah.
But humanic clues are strong.
That's interesting. And I think in this industry as coaches, we've come to call those things soft skills, right? In person, when you're communicating, developing a relationship, connecting with your athletes. And truth be told, in these times, those soft skills aren't so soft anymore. Those are really becoming like, it has to be the number one priority for a lot of coaches to reconnect with these individuals, get them engaged and get them excited about their training. We just have to be a little bit more creative at them, the way we're going about doing that. The cool thing about a tool like TrainHeroic is that we have a lot of those tools and solutions baked into the application, right? So we give you a lot of different ways you can get creative in there.
Yeah, so let's maybe talk some tactics that we've heard from coaches, or ones that we've used as coaches. I have athletes going through some of the same stuff.
Sure.
And to reproduce some of those humanic clues, right?
Yeah.
So there's the simple stuff of just responding to comments or messages and that kind of thing. But something that is a little bit subtle is like, hey, you should probably have coaching calls with your coaching clients.
Yeah.
They maybe need to be a little more often. Those touch points need to be.
Sure.
So where you can, a video call is probably worth a little more than an audio call, just because
I was just going to say
face,
that.
Right?
Yeah.
They can actually see the person they're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
What I've done, which has been pretty powerful, when I've done it, you have to kind of sprinkle it in there. But as a session comment, what I'll do is I'll put in a video of me talking directly to the athlete, maybe 30 seconds or a minute.
Sure.
And, that might take the place of my like coach notes for the day. Just kind of getting them excited to do this thing, and they feel like there's a personal touch. It's a little thing. It's not something you can do for literally everyone all the time, but it's a really nice thing to be able to do for people.
Yeah, I think personal touch is huge. And something that I've leveraged and I recommend our coaches leverage is, using those off days and rest days that you have programmed to reach out to your folks. Throw some content in there, throw something that's going to pique their interest and get them, enjoying that stuff when they're not, in their living room or wherever executing movements and exercises. Yeah.
And that brings us to like one last thing, which is, the replacement of the community aspect, if they had that originally.
Yeah.
Like I think you said, it's like, squatting a center block in your living room for 100 reps is not most people's idea of a good time for a lot of reasons.
Right.
And so if you can at least make it a competition or something like that, it gives people more of an incentive to stick to that.
People want to know that they're part of a family.
For sure. That's going to do it for us today. Go to trainheroic.com to start your 14-day free trial. When you're talking to one of our representatives, tell them the Strength Coach Podcast sent you for 10% off a year of the Pro or Elite Edition.
Hey, this is Gray Cook, and I've been talking about corrective exercise, talking about should we even be correcting things that could be fixed much easier somewhere else. And looking for the cause of what's causing bad movement is a very important part. That's why we use screens. Secondly, I honestly think that we need to have a strategy. Too many times we find a methodology, and whether it be Olympic weightlifting or kettlebells or over in rehab, it's dry needling or some new reflex techniques. We almost turn that into our strategy, and our strategy is not to get us to do our thing, to teach our favorite thing. The strategy should be to either give people more physical independence if they're trying to learn from you, or better physical performance if they're asking you for training, rehabilitation, or whatever. And if you need more of one, you're probably going to have less of the other. You can't be the highest performing person in the world and not be dependent on quite a few more things to keep you at that level. But the more independence you want, the more intelligence and resourcefulness and education you must receive to understand that physical independence. And so I construct a lot of my rehab sessions almost like a learning session, because I'm trying to prevent a problem in awareness. See, 81% of the United States right now would rate themselves good or excellent in health. But I'm going to drop some more stats on you. 60% of the US has a one chronic disease. 40% of the US has at least 2 chronic diseases. 50% of the United States has musculoskeletal health issues. But 81% of the US thinks they're in good or excellent health. How do you tell somebody who's getting ready to drive drunk that they're getting ready to drive drunk? They usually don't like it. So when you take somebody and find flaws in them, unless you invert that really quick and make it a manageable problem, it's so overwhelming, people go into denial. And they will basically form an opinion that's nowhere close to what is correct. This has all made me very, very sensitive to how aware people are about movement problems. And some of the advice that I give people just getting into movement screening and movement assessment is, listen, we built these tests for you, not them. They don't have to learn the terminology and they don't have to know what it means. What you do is take a screen or an assessment or a test, and you basically, I think, constructively ask them, I'm getting ready to give you a balance test. It's called the Y balance test, or it's called the motor control screen. How do you think your balance is? Would you rate it below average, average, or above average? And if the only thing I will tell you is we also not only look for your ability to balance, but also how similar or dissimilar are your attempts on the left and right side. And so if you think you're going to have one side different than the other, please tell me that in advance. And if you think you're going to have a problem or pain, please tell me that in advance. If you think you're the world's best balancer, I'll take that information too. Now, that's their opinion and that's subjective information. And now we go for the truth, which is objective information. And almost any time we go for objectivity, you need to have a test that is considered reliable, and you need to be reliable doing that test. If I don't have enough fingers to count how many times somebody's done research on the movement screen without ever having proper education or training in how to actually administer the test. Therefore, the results of the test are usually inappropriate because the education and training were applied in a poor way. So are we really evaluating and researching the movement screen, or the poor application of somebody who didn't understand a test? That's neither here nor there. But my whole point is, if you're going to evaluate a technique that's moving through you, at least get to a competent level of some degree of proficiency before you realize that you're evaluating the technique, not just your ability to apply it. Having said that, if somebody forecasts their balance is good and we test it as poor, we've got some conflict resolution there, don't we? I got a test that says, well, how would you do that if somebody didn't think they were hypertensive and their blood pressure cuff? There are a couple of excuses and reasons, so we can monitor your balance over a few days and see if it fluctuates, just like we would if we were concerned about your blood pressure. We're not going to do a one-test deal. But if you consistently have below average balance and consistently think you do, at some point, as we say in the South, we're going to have a come to Jesus talk, because I'm all about communication and accountability. That's where I wound up the talk with Stu McGill over at Stanford. Anytime we can enhance our communication and accountability, it's there. Now, those two words roll off my tongue because I've been saying them for a while. But the closer your say is to your do is exactly what this Southern boy is saying. So if you say or think one thing about movement and do another, as a coach, as a physical therapist, as a trainer, as an educator, I got to let you know that you ain't seeing what you think you're seeing. And I got to do it just as kindly as if you thought you could read the third line on the eye chart and you're not even close. I've got to give that to you with some grace, but I don't read you your score. I say, you know what? It seems to be, based on the screen we just did, you may have a little bit of a balance issue. You may have a little bit of a mobility issue. I'm going to put you in a few challenging postures and patterns, and I just want you to work through those. And as you work through them, they're either going to get easier or more difficult. And if they get more difficult, I'm going to have to come in and give you some cues. And if they get easier, the disadvantage of the position I'm putting you in is actually forcing you to do it more correctly than you were doing it the way you chose. So I can put you on a path that's sort of going to sand you down and line you up a little bit, or I can cue you the whole time. What do you guys think I'm going to do? Anything that elevates their self-awareness and lets them work through it themselves is way better, because that's the way my daughter learned to do it. I didn't teach her how to walk. I allowed her a safe environment to explore, and I made sure she got a little bit of challenge when she wanted it. That's what you do with awareness. And so reading somebody their movement screen score or talking to them about what you think about their QL is not movement training. Movement training occurs when they're moving and you're not talking and they're not thinking. They're responding and reacting to weight shift, balance shift, position, and posture change. And if you can improve that awareness, the rest of programming is really simple.
All right, now it's time for the Results Fitness University Business of Fitness segment. I'm here with Rachel. I'm here with Alwyn. It's been so long. I haven't talked to you in so long that I forgot I was on with you.
You thought it was Rachel still. All right. I'm glad to be back.
Alwyn, this was from a thread on StrengthCoach.com, and it was called Hiring Your First Employee, which kind of got into another question about raising rates. And he wanted to hire somebody, and he wanted to wasn't sure if he should use the same rate as more experienced trainers. So almost having these different levels of or tiers of trainers, like, okay, you can train with Alwyn for $150 an hour, or Bob at $100 an hour, or Steve at $40 an hour. So talk to us about, because people had different thoughts on this. Whether they were the owner, et cetera, kind of positioning yourself, velvet roping yourself, or what should we do when it comes to this idea about new trainers and their payroll?
So I think I'll just explain that there's two models there, and the pros and cons of each, because I always like to teach that not just what I would do. I'll give you the other examples. So I think Equinox has great success with this tiered level, that a more advanced trainer, a more experienced trainer is going to cost you more. And I can get that, and I see that with your primary care physician, right? Your general practitioner is probably a lower fee than a specialist for something. So I can see that model if you have a unique position, and I can see if you're a 5th degree black belt in Taekwondo, you're teaching a higher level of black belt. You don't just teach beginners, and a lower level black belt can do that. So I can see the different price points. The question I've always had with that is, what does the client get that's less, right? Because it seems like that's how I would differentiate me versus my competition. But I'm not sure I want to differentiate me versus my team, right? I feel like the member should have the same experience regardless of who's training them, right? That we should be working as a team. But maybe my senior coach is writing the programs and my junior coaches are implementing it and coaching it. So personally, we don't do it. That doesn't mean that my higher level guys that have been with me for a while, they get paid more than my lower level guys, but the client doesn't have to pay more just because somebody's more experienced with me. Because I really want to have the way I like to describe it is, I prefer us to have more of a team, right? That I want them to I want us to be marketing and promoting Results Fitness, our system, that you join Results Fitness, and so you come in and I'm completely full, and I only work in the mornings, and you want to train with me in the evenings, and you can't, and then you just leave. Where I'm like, yeah, you'll get the same experience regardless of who you train with. So I think different price points kind of reinforces that you have coaches that are better than others, and you don't have a system, and the experience is going to be very different. And I always think that there's a low level trainer, right? Like at some point, no matter what your price point is, there's a low level trainer, but is there such a thing as a low level client? Like, I'm not really sure how to position that. Like, and how do you guarantee results when you're reinforcing that you'll get different results based on who coaches you? So personally, I don't like it, but I can see how it works. My opinion is that originally it was designed to discourage people from working with the higher level trainer because they were so busy. I don't know if that's actually what happens, but I always thought that was the idea is you can train with me, $250 a session, or you can train with my team who are $200 a month. Right, is to reinforce that, just so you don't get it. But I'm not sure that's actually what happens. But I like more that the client experience should be the same no matter when they come in or who they train with, as much as you can. And I think that's the way to scale up any business. Like it would be. I know it's not a exact example, but it would be weird to pay extra for a coffee because Howard Schultz poured the coffee at Starbucks, right? Instead of the new guy. Like I know it's a product, it's a commodity, it's not really the same, but I feel like this standardized experience in a system is the key to scaling up, and different price points for different coaches. I kind of sort of sabotages that a little. But that doesn't mean my higher level coach should get paid more, but it may just have to come out of your profits. And if you've got a lot of high level coaches, your membership should be more. Right, you should be charging more. So I see the pros and cons to both, but I'm on the side of the membership should be the same no matter who coaches you.
Yeah, and
your job as the owner is to get the coaches ready to train anybody.
Yeah, and of course it depends on the model. Like you said, I mean, everybody that walks in Results Fitness, they're getting some kind of training. So whereas Equinox, everybody's paying $150. But there's only like a 12% saturation for personal training, right? So those people, so it's definitely a different mentality going in. But interestingly enough, I had a client, my second client, Dan Silver. And Dan from my story about his wife. But Dan used to say to me, because he got me, I was a tier 1 trainer when I first got there, obviously. And then I moved up to tier 3. And he would say, and I don't know if I'm going to train with you anymore. And I said, why, Dan? He goes, well, you're tier 2 now. I have to pay more money. He's like, I don't need Tiger Woods to teach me how to golf, right? He goes, I'm not at that level. So I don't need a tier 2 or tier 3 trainer. And I'm like, I didn't really know what to say at that point.
Yeah,
like, come on, Dan.
I don't have an argument against that.
I'm like, it's a pretty damn good argument.
Dan, you trusted me when it was advertised that I didn't know anything. And now that I've learned more and you've trusted me, we will punish you by charging you $2 extra.
Yeah, it's
like
funny.
there is a case where you're like, and this is part of the fee. Like maybe with some clients you lock in your fee and you just raise it for new clients. But there is a supply and demand in any business, right? If you're a super popular trainer with no room in your schedule, you should be charging more, because that's the law of supply and demand. But it's just I like the idea of it, but I see clients like Dan who trusted you when you started off, and you got smarter, and he doesn't get the benefit, he gets punished.
Yeah. It really is an interesting kind of dynamic. And I think part of it where people where they're getting this idea was there was this idea when a lot of people transitioned to semi-private, they were saying it's not worth it to work one-on-one anymore. You should, you would have to charge that money to make it worth it for that hour. And I think that's where people kind of misunderstood the concept.
Yeah, I think it's the reason for semi-private is that if I can get $150 a session for one-on-one, I can probably get 75 and get 3 people in, right? And that was the idea. We'd reach more people and we'd reach a different market. It's if somebody wants to come in and buy all 3 spots, you could do that if you want, I suppose, and it would become one-on-one. But that's just supply demand marketing. that's not like positioning you as a superior coach.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the money can go up because of your demand, but it's the other thing too is how many times are you really challenged as a trainer? Like, are you at the absolute limit of your skill set where you're like, man, this person is $250 an hour. They need me because this is hard for me. Right. Like you have more knowledge and you can deliver. The idea is you can deliver better results or a better experience. Then if you're on your own, you can do that and put your prices up. But if you're hiring staff, shouldn't you train them to get as good a results as you?
Yeah.
Like if at strengthcoach.com, could we have two memberships? One if I answer the questions, and then one if a higher price one and Michael answer the questions in the forum.
Exactly.
I see the reasons for it, but it's really just to. I think it's designed to encourage people to take the lower price option so you can grow your business. But I think it actually doesn't set that up as well as people think.
Yeah.
Right. I think it sets it up as this is a lower level coach.
Yeah.
Right. But there's places for a coaching training fee, but I would rather get my coaches as good as me rather than reinforce that they're not. I don't think that that's for the scalability of my business or most of the people listening to this. I'm not a fan of it. No.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, good stuff, Alan. Thank you so much for doing this, for coming on, talking about getting that, the different levels of employee pay. So we really appreciate it, and we will talk to you in a couple months.
Awesome. And I think just to reinforce that there are a higher level coach should be getting paid more, but I don't think that cost needs to necessarily be passed on to the client. If you're much better than your team, put your energy into getting them as good as you, writing the programs for them, showing them what you do, and then that's how you level up as an organization. And as usual, guys, check us out, resultsfitnessuniversity.com. That's us on all the social media platforms, or you can reach out to me personally.
All right, now it's time for the Body by Boyle online.com. Hit the gym with the strength coach segment. Become an insider to Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning with staff meetings, in-services, and complete access to the MBSC program. Check that out at bodybyboyleonline.com. All right, today I have on my good friend Brianna Diorio, and she is a certified holistic lifestyle coach, a clinical nutritionist with a master's of science in human nutrition, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. I was worried I wasn't going to get that right. And she's now the host of her own podcast with her buddy Christy called And All That Bull. Brianna, thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited. It's been a while.
I know. Well, I mean, I feel like it hasn't because I always follow you on Instagram. And I'll just want to tell everybody there's so much. Brianna gives so much knowledge on Instagram. If you want to go deeper from what we're going to talk about today, you definitely have to follow her on Instagram and check out her new podcast And All That Bull. So, Bri, I was thinking about you. It's funny because just with everything that's going on, and I don't want to say that this is a selfish podcast for me because I was like, I got to ask Bri some questions. And then I thought, my people, my strength coaches, my personal trainers out there, I know they're going through so much stress right now. We'll just set the stage in case somebody listens to this in a year. We're in the middle of the coronavirus shutdown. It is April 11th or something like that. And see, we don't even know what day it is. And in the beginning, it was, okay, we'll be closed until April 1st. And then the president was thinking, look, I want everything open by April 12th, which is Easter, which was yesterday. So that means today's the 13th. So then now there's a big argument about May 1st. Then there's people saying, no way, we have to go at least till May 15th and June 1st. Otherwise, we're going to have a second spike. So basically what I'm getting at is there's so much uncertainty right now. Gyms are closed, personal trainers, people don't have jobs. The unemployment rate is going through the roof. People are having problems with these loans. And I thought I need to get Bri on to talk about some of this stuff, which really at the end of the day, I think it all boils down to stress. And some of it that I don't want to say it's hidden or that we don't realize it. Cause even for somebody like me, who my wife is the breadwinner in the family and she has not stopped working. I actually haven't had much of a disruption because I have online businesses. So things are okay for us. I have an office to go to. Everything's cool. We walk here. We have a dog. We bring a dog. But it's all that anybody's talking about. Even
Right.
I'm super stressed. Our diets are all over the map. There's, like I said, all this uncertainty. So I wanted to get you on. So let's talk. Really start out with stress and how it really can affect us and how bad it can be.
Yeah, I think, well, I know people can't see, but I was literally nodding my head the whole time during everything you were just saying, because I think that's going to resonate with so many people right now. I mean, stress has been a topic that I think has gained so much interest over the years anyway. But what I've seen happen over the years is just like anything, a lot of us have this like all or nothing mindset, right? So, now everybody's like anti-stress everything, just like we were like anti-bacteria for a while and anti-inflammation. It's like the goal in life with any of these topics is never to totally evade or get away from stress. And, unless you're going to be bubble boy, like that's just not going to happen. So I think what people are realizing now is because we can't distract ourselves the way that we used to, or just stay super busy or whatever it is, like a lot of us are for the first time dealing with these stressors that have kind of just like piled up. It's almost like when you have that pile of laundry in your room, that one chair, and you keep just like, yeah, I'll put it away. And then eventually you're like, okay, I have nothing to wear. That's kind of what's happening now. People like emotionally are having this like buildup of, things that they haven't dealt with in a while. And stress is this kind of really big term. And we know that the body, a lot of people will talk about how the body doesn't know the difference between being chased by a tiger or emotional stress. And it's like, well, none of us are being chased by tigers right now. However, a lot of us are super stressed in other ways. Like you were saying, emotional stress, we have financial stresses, we have biochemical stresses going on. And so basically the way the body looks at it is that stress is literally any internal or external stimuli, and this can be real or perceived, that basically evokes some kind of biological response. So for some people, they might experience like, I joke a lot about this when people are like physically getting on your nerves, right? That's because our nervous system is actually being overactivated. For some people, maybe they notice that their skin is breaking out. For some people, maybe they're noticing changes in their weight. And so we know that a lot of the time stress can either be triggering something that was maybe laying dormant for a while. That's what happens with viruses a lot. Or it can aggravate factors that maybe we have other, conditions that have been in the body for a while. And so that's kind of what I think people are experiencing now. And it's just sort of coming to the surface for people. So you're not alone. But what I do always tell people is like, easier said than done. Try to not stress about stress. And I think more than ever right now, it's like learning to control what you can control, like some of the factors you were talking about, like diet and sleep and mindset and all that. But I mean, we're all going through it right now.
Yeah, we really are. Like we said, there's no one who's really immune to this at the moment, just from the perspective of, I think, the uncertainty, just because things are going okay for me right now, because we have jobs, things are great. That doesn't mean in a month and a half that it's going to be the same way. And I think that's where, this idea, I love that. I always love the saying, fear doesn't live in the present, it lives in the future. So stop worrying, like you said, control what you can control, which are some of these things like diet and sleep, but easier said than done, only because right now, I love what you just said about, right now, we don't have all these other distractions right now. And now it's just like, it's right in our face. So many people are sitting around, not doing as much as they were, or they're doing the same things every day. And now this is just piling up. So talk to us about maybe what you normally recommend in terms of, these are some things you can do to make sure that you're, that stress isn't a big factor in your life. And then some of the things from a diet and supplementation perspective. And then what are some of the things that you've kind of ramped up with some of your clients to say, hey, you need to do a little bit more of this right now?
Yeah, totally. I think that's a great question because I think a lot of the times people are generally, when it comes to health, it's like we're always in this reactive mindset of like, okay, I feel sick right now or I feel stressed right now. what do I do? And I think this is actually a really great time to be taking a step back and thinking bigger picture and taking a preventative approach and thinking proactively to make sure that, again, when we have things that come up like this, it's not going to totally destroy what's going on. And so like I've been telling people, and I know it sounds like, again, easier said than done, but people should just really be boring with their health in general, right? So like, I know people are always looking for what's the next big health trend in the book, like what book should I be reading and what's the exact macro composition? And it's like a lot of the people just don't want to do the work of the very basic stuff. Now more than ever, that everybody should just be really boring with their health. So like this means really just focusing on the basics of things that you can't necessarily find in a supplement aisle or that you can't buy, and read an excerpt from a book about like some of the really basic minimal stuff. So going to sleep, I know people right now are struggling financially and stressed out about that, but sleeping and rest are two of the most important things for your body, not only from an immune standpoint, but again, for mitigating things like what's going on with your inflammation, what's going on actually with your brain. So trying to go to sleep and, not stressing out if your sleep routine is a little bit, out of sync right now. Also, if you can do some of the basics of, getting your body moving, it doesn't mean you have to, be crushing the PR in the gym right now, but if it's nice enough, walking outside, playing in the sun, if you can, grounding, earthing, those kinds of things. And then even just, again, like some of the basic nutrients. So like vitamin D3, your krill oils and your omegas, your B vitamins, your CoQ10, all of that kind of stuff. And then always, like I always just say, like assessing your stress and inflammation bucket. So, and taking responsibility for things that maybe you're adding your own stress to. So like, pro-inflammatory thoughts and pro-inflammatory people that you've allowed to stay in your life longer than that. And just kind of, eating whole real foods if you can, and, drinking purified water. And, again, none of that's super sexy and innovative, but it's what works and it's what has worked for thousands of years. So learning to just listen to your body and really focusing on listening to the symptoms as well, because again, symptoms aren't, the problem or the result of a problem. I say that all the time. And it's kind of your body's way of talking to you. So if you're chronically tired, or if you're always sore, if you always have headaches or whatever is going on, or every time you eat a certain food, you notice that you get really bloated and you get gassy, like that's all of your body's way of trying to say, hey, listen, like talk to me. And what we normally would be doing is saying, well, that's great. I understand that this doesn't make me feel well right now, but I have 1,000 other things to do. So I'll deal with this later. And it's like, right now we have nothing but time to be dealing with some of these health core issues that we have going on. So just be boring with your health and get back to the basics, like right now more than ever.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to go deeper in a little bit onto sleep, but I want to just really touch on the movement piece and working out right now, because actually, I've personally dialed down my workouts to kind of say, okay, because I have a dog, so we're able to walk the dog a lot. We do that a lot. So let's say anywhere from 3 to 6 miles a day normally. Yesterday we actually did 8. But what I'm trying to do with the workouts is dial them down a little bit, just because of that stress level, and trying to say, you know what, now might not be the time. Let's be more consistent. Let's do some more, let's call them micro workouts, take it down a notch. What are your feelings about that piece of it?
I think everybody's being really hard on themselves for everything right now. And I think if it's, again, something that you're going to beat yourself up about, like, okay, I can't work out 5 times a day, or again, I'm not setting a PR in the gym, like that's okay. I think you have to meet yourself where you are and do what you can. So like you were saying, maybe instead of doing 1 whole hour of a workout, like every hour on the hour, you do 10 push-ups and 10 squats and just kind of move throughout the day. I just think that any way you can create some sort of normalcy or routine in your day. And again, maybe you always worked out, like I was one of these people, I work out first thing in the morning, usually like 5 a.m. I haven't been super motivated to do that. So like sometimes my workouts aren't until 2 p.m. and like, that's okay. So I think as long as you just try and set some realistic goals for yourself right now and just like, get a little bit of movement going, it doesn't have to always be quote exercise in the gym. Movement can literally be just like you said, like walking your dog or, doing dancing in your living room. Like, you can do any of those things, but I just think any way to kind of wake the body and the mind up is going to be good right now, and finding what works for you right now. And like I said, just being like okay with it not being what it used to be. I think people need to hold on to some level of, normalcy and routine in their life if they can.
Absolutely. Bree, you brushed over the supplement, like the D3, the krill oil, the B, the CoQ10. Can you actually just go into a little bit more detail on the normal recommendations? Normally, what are you recommending for people? Just slow it down a little bit on that, because I know that's the question that everybody's going to be like, well, how much D3 should I get? And blah, go over your list of, what you're normally recommending for people in terms of the basics.
Yeah, totally. It's a great question. So vitamin D3, I mean, anybody who follows me on Instagram knows the daily D is kind of like my cheeky little joke that I make, because vitamin D is, it's not only something that deals with, our immune health, but it's a neuroregulatory peptide in the body. So basically what that means is that it can influence things like our brain, and it can help to regulate other hormone functions in the body. And we know that hormones, like a family, function and dysfunction in the body. And so we actually have like these vitamin D receptors in pretty much literally every single cell in our body. And so if it's not bad enough right now with all things Corona, and we're just kind of coming out of the, the back nine of winter months and seasonal affective disorder and stuff like that, vitamin D levels can be lower, which can affect things like, of course, not only our immune system, because vitamin D does help to produce over 200 different antimicrobial peptides. So 200 of these proteins that essentially can help to boost immune function, but it also deals with things like our mood levels and, like anxiety and all that kind of stuff. So what I normally recommend, first things first, is obviously you should be getting a blood panel and seeing where your vitamin D levels are at. I like to see with my clients anywhere between 50 nanograms per milliliter and up, between 50 and 70. And depending on, where you live, your exposure to, altitude, how much skin you've exposed, all of that can go into it. But so a general recommendation for a lot of people is around 1,000 to 2,000 IUs per day. For the winter months, for me particularly, and a lot of people I see in the Northeast, I generally like to see people on about 5,000 IUs of maintenance per day. So that's kind of a baseline, especially with immunity. I've, read research studies about people doing microdosing of super high numbers and then kind of letting it ride. But I think anywhere between 2,000 and 5,000 IUs a day is good.
Wait, I just want to interrupt you on that one, because I want to have, there's like a warning here, because I walk my dog she comes to work with me. And so every morning I would walk my dog, and it's sunny out. Okay. And then I walk her 2 or 3 to 4 more times a day. Okay. And in December, I got my blood taken. I don't know what the numbers were, but my doctor, everything was amazing. The one thing, he was like, you need a little more vitamin D. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm outside so much. But so I started taking 1,000 to 2,000, and then I saw that you were recommending 5,000, so I changed it up. I mixed it up like last month. I got more. So I just wanted to say, it's not only about being outside, right?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, so what people don't realize is that it's actually really hard to raise your levels of vitamin D. And this is where the whole conversation of D2 versus D3 comes in, because, there's a lot of research that talks about, like, sure, vitamin D2 is okay at keeping maintenance levels fine, but vitamin D3 actually is best for raising levels. And so in order to actually absorb vitamin D3 from the sun, number one, you have to have about 70% of your skin exposed. You have to be doing it as close to solar noon as possible. You have to be living like above like 37 degrees north latitude or below 37 degrees south of the equator. Like all of those things can affect what's going on. And so again, people have enough insecurities about putting a bathing suit on in the summer months, let alone like working on their vitamin D levels. So in the summer months, you can use an app like D-Minder, it's called, which can actually look at the UV of the sun, because that is also going to influence what's going on with how much you absorb. But that's why usually during the winter months, I tell people, like 5,000 is pretty good at, and the D3 again is going to be the better form, quote, better form, because it has a longer half-life in the body where you don't have to keep taking it. So I would suggest vitamin D3, but obviously always get your levels checked first.
Very cool. Sorry, I had to interrupt on the D, because I just knew that it's not, sometimes people like myself was under the assumption that, hey, I'm outside all the time. How can my D levels go down? So next would be, I guess, krill oil, right?
Yeah. So omega fatty acids in general. So there's a big debate over krill oil versus fish oil. And, I tell people like, take what you're going to remember to take and what you like taking. I personally like krill oil because it's in the phospholipid form, which means that your body doesn't technically have to convert it and break it down, and it can cross the blood-brain barrier. But take either, right? So omega fatty acids, they're called essential fatty acids because they are essential for our health. However, we cannot make them on our own. So these are things like, having our balance of our omega-3s and our omega-6s. And this is going to be really important, again, for things like mood and anxiety. A lot of people are dealing with that right now, but also the health of our cell membranes. So everybody's freaking out about viruses right now. And if anybody understands the physiology of viral replication, the viruses, it's like a 6-step process where it actually has to attach and penetrate the cells and a bunch of other steps. And so if you actually have a strong cellular membrane as well, like this is going to be really important. And so we know that anywhere up to, 60 to 80% of the population is deficient in these fatty acids. So really important for cognitive health. So like our brain, very important for our immune health. And then also balancing this whole thing out with pro-inflammatory cytokines and anti-inflammatory cytokines, or again, these kind of immune proteins that can affect things like having, stressors, adding more to that stress bucket. So omega fatty acids, I think, is something that people should be taking, regardless, kind of all year round. It's hard to get from the diet. And especially if you're like an athlete and you work out a lot, there's a good chance that you're having more, cellular turnover and all of that. And so we want to make sure that we're supporting cellular health and membrane health as well.
How much of that?
So anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams a day, depending on if you're going to take, krill oil or fish oil. A lot of the research that talks about krill oil says that you can actually take less of it, again, because it's in that phospholipid form. So it kind of just depends what you're taking. But usually I tell people just start with the recommended dosage on the back of the bottle. Like that's always a good jumping off point. Give your body like 2 weeks to adjust, and then you can always titrate up if needed.
Excellent. What else? What other supplements?
I think another one that that's way underrated actually in general are adaptogens. So I love adaptogens. Adaptogens are basically, herbs or botanicals that can help your body adapt to stress and adapt non-specifically. So it actually works on things like, heat shock proteins in the body and some of these pro-inflammatory cytokines and things that basically go and tell your other cells how to act. So it's kind of like the chaperone of your body. And so we know that when we are really stressed out, or when our stress bucket is full, or our immune bucket is overfilling, or our toxic bucket, quote, whatever you want to call it, secondarily, our body, again, because it's always just trying to maintain balance and get back to homeostasis, it's generally doing that at our own hormonal, immune, and metabolic expense. So adaptogens can secondarily work on that whole HPA axis. So what's going on with your stress response, your immune system. A lot of them can help to recycle antioxidants in the body. A lot of them can help prevent damage from a lot of cortisol and adrenaline going on in the body. So adaptogens, depending on what you have going on, can help kind of balance everything out and keep you in sort of that nice equilibrium that our body is always fighting so hard to get back to. So I think adaptogens, what people don't realize, can, like I said, secondarily help support the immune system, but also things like your mood, sleeping, and cognition as well, kind of all year round.
Okay, so what do I do? Go to Vitamin Shop and say I need some adaptogens, or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it depends. Again, like with anything, I think it's really important to understand yourself. In Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, they'll talk about your constitutional type, right? So if you're hypo or hyper, if you're excess or deficient. In Ayurvedic medicine, they call it like your vatas and all that kind of stuff. You don't have to get all hippy dippy, but you have to understand yourself as a person. So that goes back to my whole point of like, meet yourself where you are. If you're a very type A, super sad, overachiever personality, someone like myself, most people on the East Coast in the tri-state area, I kind of call it like East Coast, West Coast mentality, right? Like I lived in California for a while.
Yeah.
I'm a Jersey girl, right? If you come to the East Coast, everybody again is like kind of like hyper functioning all the time. We're excess, we're go, 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 go. There's a really good chance that your body is probably like running on adrenaline and cortisol. You're kind of have a hard time maybe relaxing your mind. So adding something that's going to stimulate your body more is not going to be really great. So you might need to say to yourself, okay, I'm always really stressed out, or I always have a really hard time sleeping. Why is that? Is that because I'm always in my head, or is that because I'm like always on my phone, right? where we also have people on the other end of the spectrum who I call like the California West Coast people, right? When I lived there, everybody was like, yeah, man, no worries. It's super chill, like all the time. Those are people who would be considered, deficient. They could maybe use a little bit more, turning up the fire a little bit more in their body, things that are a bit more stimulating, right? So if you're somebody who's maybe always really tired, even if you sleep for 10 hours a night, you never have energy, you never recover from the gym, you might need more stimulating adaptogens. So that's kind of the first conversation that you have to have with yourself and being honest with yourself about that. So some more of the stimulating ones are going to be things like, rhodiola and ashwagandha. We have some more balancing ones or things that can calm us down, like holy basil can be really nice, and lemon balm. So I think that's kind of where you have to start first. And then, like I said, from there, you can, definitely have a conversation. You can look on my page. I talk about this kind of stuff all the time. Or, if you're already working with somebody, but you can literally just even Google like stimulating or calming adaptogens, but you have to understand where you are first.
Excellent. What was your recommendation for the B vitamins?
B vitamins, I suggest kind of just trying to get a B complex if you can. So like some really good brands out there would be something like Diorio is a nice one. Dr. Mercola has good vitamins. You can also go to your local, not now, but you could go to your local health food store and talk to them about what they recommend. But Doctor's Best is another one. So just getting just a basic B complex vitamin, again, because B vitamins are going to be super important for pretty much like everything in your body. I call it kind of like, your friend who knows a little bit about everything, right? So B vitamins help with creating neurotransmitters, and they help with creating your hormones. They deal with what's going on with your mood. They help to process, your carbohydrates, proteins, and fat. So they deal with your metabolism. And when we are super stressed out, our body burns through more things of like B vitamins, magnesium, some of our trace minerals and stuff like that as well, particularly like B5 is really important for your adrenal glands. We need B6 for converting, tryptophan into serotonin. So again, things that deal with how we can feel happy and how we can be relaxed. So a nice, just basic B complex is going to be just basically a good starter to keep in your health arsenal.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, because it gets a little crazy sometimes. So I like that idea about just, hey, get the B complex. That's, generally a good, it'll take care of a lot of things. What about, you mentioned CoQ10 as well.
Yeah, so CoQ10, again, this is really important, again, because our mitochondria health, there's a lot of really cool research now about mitochondrial dysfunction and aging. And so there, as we get older, we have more of this, our mitochondria. I know a lot of us know that it's the powerhouse of the cell, as we've learned in 9th grade biology. And people are like, I don't really know what that means. Basically, what mitochondria do is they kind of act like the bio batteries of your cells. And so we, depending on how active certain organs are in your body, we can have anywhere from a couple hundred of these to a couple thousand of them. So organs that are more active, like our brain and our liver and our heart, they actually have more mitochondria in them. And so like, if you think of it like a battery, right? If your cell phone battery is at like 20% as opposed to 80%, right? We know like 80% is going to function more optimally. What CoQ10 does is it actually helps to be like, quote, charging in your mitochondria so you can get back a full charge. About 90% of the energy production, the ATP that we produce in our body, comes from our mitochondria. But because it's inside of our cellular machinery or inside of those cells, when we have a lot of free radical damage, which can be from anything, it can be from, a lot of inflammation, it can be from working out too much, it can be from not resting enough, poor diet, drinking, whatever it is, our mitochondria can kind of start to decline. And again, after the age of 25, our body's ability to convert the active form, declines as well. So with CoQ10, anywhere from, 100 to 400 milligrams a day can be beneficial. And the research talks a lot about, it's not necessarily about how much CoQ10 you take in any one sitting. It's about dividing up the doses throughout the day. So I generally recommend to people, 100 or 200 milligrams in the morning, and then another 100 or 200 milligrams at lunch.
Okay, cool. And that actually goes to another question that I wanted to have. Yeah, about the timing. Does it matter? Obviously, with the CoQ10, you just said yes, morning and lunch. Anything else that I did hear? Don't take vitamin D in the evening for whatever reason. But is there any kind of time restriction on these things?
I mean, vitamin B For some people, it obviously, because it does help with energy, it can make some people more energized, and some people are also sensitive to B vitamins, so it can upset their stomach if they have it on an empty stomach. So I usually tell people, like, just take your B vitamins in the morning. But I say this to clients all the time, like 10% compliance equals 10% results, 20% compliance equals 20% results, like so on and so forth. So if you're somebody who, let's say, doesn't remember to do anything in the morning, and I'm telling you to take everything in the morning, that's not helpful. So take vitamins when you're going to remember them is what I tell people. That means you can set a timer on your phone, or if you have like some kind of morning ritual, like do it then, or if you have an afternoon time where you take time for yourself. But generally, I think it's okay to, try and do it first thing in the morning if you can. And also for some things like herbs and botanicals particularly, a lot of people think that it's just about getting as much of it as you can in your body at one time. And there's this whole concept of pulse dosing, which means kind of spreading it out throughout the day. So it's kind of like keeping it in your bloodstream throughout the day. So sometimes you also have to divide it up and take certain things, every couple of hours as well.
But you're right. Look, however you can do it, whatever you're going to get 100% compliance, do it that way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And there's certain things, like obviously, if you're trying to take melatonin for sleep, you're probably going to want to take that at nighttime, right? Yeah. But there are certain things as well, like, your vitamin D and a krill oil and stuff like that. If you're supposed to take it, I had a client one time send me legitimately an Excel spreadsheet. And I was like, I'm stressed out for you. Like, just relax. You know what I mean? So like, I'll just take a step back. And she was like, I was supposed to take this at 8:07 a.m. and I didn't. And I was like, take it at lunch. Like, it's fine. You know what I mean? Your body doesn't know the difference. So just whenever you're going to remember to habitually take it.
Very cool. I want to talk about sleep, but is there anything else on supplementation that you wanted to mention?
Well, I think with all things going on stress right now, again, I think it is really important to maybe try and take some things that can help maybe take the edge off with your stress response, again, because stress is one of these things that, and listen, everybody's stressing out right now. Everybody's microdosing with anxiety. It's super common on a day-to-day basis, right? Like 40 million Americans suffer from anxiety, but now I think it's heightened even more. So I think if you can take some things that are going to calm down the nervous system a little bit, like your central nervous system, and just relax, would be really nice. So you can take some things like, passion flower and skullcap, lemon balm, even some of the basics like chamomile tea. Like, these are all things that can help just relax that whole conversation between the mind and the body. And so just kind of, taking some time to take some deep breaths and maybe like have a little tea party with yourself. And kava is also another one of my really favorite botanicals that help kind of relax the mind and the body. So looking into some of that could be helpful right now.
Love it. Okay, let's talk a little bit about sleep. We don't have to talk about the importance of it because we all know how important it is. But right now, we talked about this earlier, how stressful we are just from in general. And then the conversation, I'm getting texts from people like, oh my God, did you hear it might be May 1st now? And whatever. It's crazy because we even went for a little walk in the neighborhood with some people, did our social distancing, but we went for a walk with the dogs, and it was like, it dominated the conversation. And I was like, man, it's 7:30. We're going to go home in a little while and chill and try to get some sleep later. And this isn't really helping. So talk to us how we can get some better sleep right now with some of your recommendations.
Yeah. So I think people, again, there's a difference between sleep and rest, because I'm hearing this from a lot of people, including clients. And I've even experienced this myself, where it's like, you're not really doing a whole lot all day, but you're still like really tired for some reason. Because again, we do have this kind of whole idea of the letdown phase, where everything you've been kind of not dealing with for a while, your body's like, well, we're going to deal with it now. So here you go. Here's all of your thoughts and all this stuff going on. And again, I think a lot of us are not having our normal patterns. So sometimes we're not sleeping because of our minds can't shut off. So, that's a whole nother conversation. But also, I think a lot of us are spending way more time on our phones now and watching TV and things that, again, are going to be disrupting our whole circadian rhythm. So I know it's easier said than done, but, either try and wear some blue blocking shades if you can at nighttime, dealing with how much exposure you're getting to some of this blue light, because that can affect your cortisol response. And we know that, cortisol and melatonin are antagonizing hormones. So anytime we have a lot of bright light exposure, whether that's from the sun or from a reading lamp or from your TV, your body is not going to release that melatonin. Cortisol has like a half-life of about 90 minutes. So we got to try and shut down a little bit earlier, maybe think about other ways we can like calm our mind and body down. And then also realizing that things like melatonin don't necessarily work like a sleeping pill if your circadian rhythm is so dysregulated. So you have to try and develop sleep hygiene. That doesn't mean you have to like take a shower before you go to sleep. That means developing some routine in your life normally. You should shower if you want, but if not, sleeping in complete darkness is going to be really important. Lowering the temperature of the room is going to be important, right? So sleeping in a colder room. And like I said, trying to just decrease your exposure to a lot of those artificial blue lights if you can, even though like everybody's screen time is up 90,000% right now.
Yeah, it really is. It's funny. And in a good way too. Like we're also trying to learn some things and watching more stuff on more online courses, reading some more articles, etc. But you're right, we're definitely spending a lot too much time on that. So I have those. I wear shades. I almost can't sleep without them anymore. They're so amazing. I do try to wear the blue blockers as well in the evening as much as I can, and then I always sleep with the shades now because the Manta ones are awesome.
Yeah, I think it's, I think sleep is tough for a lot of people. There's over 100 sleep disorders that exist, again, on a good day. And I think right now people are, I know even me, like I stress out when I can't sleep because I take sleeping so importantly. And it's just like, okay, you know what? It's going to be, you're probably going to bed later and that's okay. Like, but I think just also like listen to your body right now. I know there are a lot of people who are still working and that's great, but there's a lot of people who aren't. So it's like, if you're tired in the middle of the day and you want to take a nap, like take a nap. Like when else in your life are you going to be able to do this? You know what I mean? So I think just like listening to your body and not feeling guilty about like our conversation before, like, okay, I should be working out right now and I normally do and I'm not. Like, it's fine. Just like relax. And, you know, your body's going to balance out eventually. And it's all about your averages of all of these health things anyway. So if you have 2 nights out of the week where your sleep isn't great, like you'll be fine. It'll, you know, at the end of the month, that if there's 30 days in the month, like it's going to be okay. So I think just like I said, easing up a little bit on like some of the self-abuse that people are doing right now and being super hard on themselves. It's just not helping anybody.
It's such a great point. And again, part of why I wanted to do this was because of obviously, again, selfish, but I think trainers and train coaches, et cetera, and anyone in the healthcare industry are always real hard on themselves because we're trying to set an example. We're telling people to do certain things. And if we don't do them, we feel like we kind of beat ourselves up for it. So great point on that for sure. Bree, let's finish up with the immune system in terms of diet, the immune system and supplementation, and what are some things we can do? Because I know there is some controversy. I've seen some people some people feel like others are taking advantage of, hey, buy this now, this will help you stop coronavirus, whatever. So they're getting angry. But there are some things that obviously we can do to help our immune system, and we want to make sure that we're doing those things. And what are those things in your opinion?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I say it all the time. Food is information for yourself. Well, actually, Dr. Mark Hyman originally coined that term. But also, again, if anybody follows me, everybody knows I post about plant compounds all day long because it's so amazing. So like, obviously, pharmaceutical companies can't put a patent on things that are happening in Mother Nature. And so what they're doing is they're looking at some of these active constituents or active compounds that literally work on the same pathways in our body that deal with things like releasing pro-inflammatory cytokines and dealing with neuroinflammation. So like inflammation that's going on in our brain, things that can alter our gut microbiome. Like there's these actual compounds that are found in, believe it or not, like the food that we eat. And so a lot of the times, and again, this goes back to right now, like don't be so hard on yourself if maybe your diet isn't perfect. Maybe this is not the best time to be like working on summer shred. Maybe you should just be focusing on some of the basics. So like everyone, knows vitamin C is really great for our immune system, and everyone's trying to take a bunch of vitamin C supplements and you can't get it anywhere. Well, you can also get vitamin C in basically anything that contains colors in it. So, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries. You can eat, leafy greens, all the folate. You can eat things like peppers. So, your basic fruits and vegetables are going to be really, really important. And then, proteins, quality proteins are going to be super important as well. So we've been talking a lot about like mood and anxiety. And again, people not feeling great right now, proteins, amino acids are literally the building blocks of our neurotransmitters and are proteins that also make up our immune cells. So our body and our body's immune system is literally made up of all of these different immune proteins. So it's really important that we get the building blocks for that. So, chicken, fish, eggs, again, basically the basics of, what you would consider a protein. And then if you can get, some things like, your other carbohydrates, rice, potatoes, Ezekiel bread, like whole real foods, because again, carbohydrates, there's been research that talks about eating carbohydrates alone, how that can actually raise things like serotonin levels. So it can make us, feel a little bit more calm and kind of raise our mood. And so just some of the basics. And then quercetin is like one of my favorite plant compounds. This is really important right now with, allergy season coming up. So things like anything in your cruciferous vegetable family. So, onions, those can be like red or white onions, things like, broccoli and Brussels sprouts, cauliflower. And then also don't underestimate the power of a lot of spices that you might have in your cabinet. So, everybody gives turmeric all of the glory, but people forget that turmeric is a part of the ginger family. So cooking with things like ginger and turmeric is going to be really nice. Using things like rosemary and garlic and thyme, even stuff like cinnamon, all these things can help to kind of, boost the immune system, relax a lot of the inflammation we have going on, and kind of, just keep our body, again, when we're assessing that stress bucket, so keeping it in kind of a balanced state. So just some of the basics. And then have some fun and don't beat yourself up if you eat like a cookie or 6. It's fine.
Or 6. Love it. Good stuff, Bri. And I want to remind everybody, just go to Instagram, Brianna Diorio. I'll have a link to that as well. She does a great job of making things easy, but also she also posts a lot of pretty technical stuff as well. So if you wanted to go deeper, she always provides all that information. So Brianna, thank you so much for coming on and talking about, it's such a crazy time right now. You're the first one I thought of, like, I got to get Brianna to just actually get her on the phone for me, and then thought, hey, maybe I'll help some people here with this one. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks. I feel honored. You're always one of my favorite people. So this is so much fun for me.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 279 of the Strength Coach Podcast. Remember, strengthcoach.com, 30 days, just $1. You'll have access to all the articles, videos, and programs, as well as the best forum on the net. It's the only place to have full access to Coach Boyle. He's on every day. Remember, we got a full COVID-19 resource center going on at strengthcoach.com as well to help you get through some of this. Remember, to access that offer, go to strengthcoach.com, click the Join Now button to start your trial. Special thanks to Chris Parter and the folks over at Perform Better. Free shipping on orders over $49. Restrictions do apply. Remember, you can get those customized packages to help you fit your online training. Thanks to Coach Boyle and Brianna Diorio for sharing their insights and philosophies into the world of strength and conditioning, performance enhancement, nutrition, and supplementation. Thanks to Adam Doughty, Tim Robinson, and TrainHeroic. Head over to TrainHeroic.com to start your free 14-day trial. Let them know I sent you. You'll save 10% off the first year of the TrainHeroic Pro or Elite Edition. Alan Cosgrove for the Results Fitness University Business of Fitness segment. Check them out at resultsfitnessuniversity.com. Great Cook and Functional Movement Systems. Check them out at functionalmovement.com. My name's Anthony Renna. My new book, Be Like the Best, consists of 50 interviews with top fitness pros, and after each interview is a Be Like, which is an action step or a challenge that will help you be like the best. Now's a great time to get that book and take some action on it. That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you next time.